Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up, I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes. This day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Now, if I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change.
Well, hello everyone. I hope you are, in fact, doing well. And I hope the title was provocative enough that you were going, what is she on about? And I'll let you know. But let's do the preliminaries. I have, along the bottom here, a link to my Patreon. If you would like to support my show, it would be gratefully appreciated, and it would, so it would make me very, very happy. You can support for as little as $1 a month, though the average is $5 a month, but whatever you can do, I would love to have you as a supporter, and you do, excuse me, need some caffeine. You do get some bonus content. And we're starting on a new book. I'm finishing up. I already finished it. I just need to finish the recordings for the patrons of Judge Gray. But what we are starting on now is Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail by Dr. Thompson, Jack Thompson. And that should be pretty good. I've already skimmed through it, and it definitely has the 70s feel to it. And I think it will give us a better feel for the politics going on at this time. So that is going to be patron-only content. Again, you can get in on that game right there. Okay, enough of that. I lost my cursor. I do that all the time. Okay. If I can get that off the screen because it distracts me. 1 second here. Your problem is I don't have my glasses on. There we go. Perfect. I better put my glasses on. I keep forgetting that I'm old. Dave Davis, do we get a free tote bag for a contribution? No. But there's something that somebody had done for a while. Not that, I'm just saying. The highest tier I have is $25 a month, I think. And the people who do that get to give me a topic a month to cover. And I do that for my top subscribers. Clayton was a subscriber at the top level for a while, and he's the reason we have that video on does libertarianism allow voluntary slavery. And if anyone had watched that video, there was quite a bit of research gone into it. So that's the bonus for my my top supporters. But yeah, Fear and Loathing on the campaign trail. I'll probably record my first video on that for the patrons tomorrow. But that's not what we're doing here. We're doing a bonus episode here for LP News or LP History, November 72. And before I back up the claim that I made in advertising this in the thumbnail, let's at first do the political perspectives column that we did not do last time in LP News. And that will get us in the mood. Okay, because we always do this separately, but I gotta find my printed copy here. And we are going to have one more at least bonus episode after this one, and I'll let you know what that is. But here we go, political perspective. To nobody's surprise, Richard the Lion-Hearted, Lyn. Oh my God, I think I have a new name for Bill Weld. Swept to a landslide victory over George McGrobble. The only aspect of his triumph that was in any way amazing was its sheer magnitude. 6 months ago, even the most pro-Nixon estimates gave McGovern more states and a higher percentage of the vote than he actually got. And what's amazing about this at the time is the Watergate break-ins were already part of the public consciousness. And he still won by a landslide. It didn't evolve into the blow-up, until the following year, but it was out there at this time. Indeed, McGovern lost so badly that one is tempted to agree with those who claimed that the match was fixed from the start. You can't say that, David Nolan. Zuck is going to go back in time and censor you. You're not allowed to say elections were fixed. That McGovern was trying to lose. Certainly, he managed to do just about everything that he could to ensure his own defeat, from taking stands calculated to drive in even the most rabidly anti-Nixon conservatives back into the Nixon camp, to dumping his vice presidential candidate in the manner that would most effectively undermine his own integrity and credibility. All this stuff is the kind of stuff that's covered in Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail. So we'll get into the nitty-gritty on this in that book. I'm really looking forward to it, though it's a 500-page beast. So obviously I'm going to handle it a little differently than I did the Judge Gray book. But whether McGovern blew it deliberately or simply through his own ineptitude, the net result is that Nixon not only won, but won by such a margin that he now has a mandate to do whatever he or those who control him, if there be such, may choose. What course he will follow, we cannot say. His first remarks following his victory contained some anti-bureaucratic rhetoric, but we don't place much faith in Nixon's rhetoric. What course he will Our guess is that the second 4 years of Nixon will be much like the first 4. Increasing commitment to international involvements, more inflation, more controls, and perhaps an economic crash. In any event, the picture that is already shaping up for 76 is not a pretty one. Assuming that he will accept it, Teddy Kennedy has the Democratic nomination in his pocket. On the Republican side, we can expect to see Spiro Agnew making his bid, although not without competition from such perennial favorites as Rockefeller and Reagan, along with a liberal senator or two, e.g. Percy and Taft, and perhaps a couple of phony conservatives, e.g. Brock, Dole, and Gurney. So when the dust clears, we will probably face a choice between Kennedy and some Nixon surrogate. And given the fact that things will probably be in even more of a mess than they are now, plus the fact that Teddy Bear has charisma, we can expect the American voters to run to EMK in 76, just as they ran to FDR in 32. And the thought of a Teddy Kennedy administration is enough to scare even your normally imperturbable editor and humble editor, right? So where does this leave us? As I see it, we have two options. One is the Ayn Rand trick to throw our support to the GOP candidate in hopes of stopping Teddy. See, it's always been the same story. Every election is the most important election. That's why when I was on Tom Wood's show and he said, don't you understand how people say, well, I have to vote for the Republican to keep this person out? I said, no, I don't think they have a valid point. I think it's bullshit. The story never changes. There's nothing new under the sun. The other is to immediately begin a massive educational effort to make the American people realize that the current administration's policies, particularly in the economic sphere, are leading us toward disaster and that the only hope for improvement lies in a reversal, rather than an amplification of those policies. The former course would be a great error as I see it for two reasons. First, because it probably wouldn't work. Anyhow, barring some miracle, it seems certain that Teddy Kennedy is going to win in 76 if he runs. And more importantly, because if we do throw in with the GOP even once on the lesser of the two evils basis, it will permanently destroy our credibility as a party of principle. Can I get an amen? The second course, in contrast, offers us an opportunity to make a great deal of progress in converting people to the libertarian viewpoint. If we, and we alone in the political arena, correctly predict what is going to happen and why, then people will be far more inclined to turn to us to get them out of this mess. In other words, we must prepare now to take advantage of the widespread public dissatisfaction that is inevitably going to occur when present policies result in catastrophe. And I forgot to say hello to Julian, who was first here. Okay, so yeah, that's it for the political perspective. Let me let you know what the next couple bonus episodes will be, and then we'll get to the main event of this one. And if you're wondering why I've got blue sheets here, I ran out of regular paper, and I used... Never mind. I just have a bunch of blue paper. So what we are going to be doing next time is there was something new. And it says XCOM votes. So this is pretty much the very beginning of the LNC. Though they didn't call themselves that at the time. I think, well, right now they just called themselves the LP National Executive Committee. And then I know later they just called themselves the National Committee and then Libertarian National Committee. It's gone through several names. So I would like to go over the reporting from the beginning of the LNC. And also, there's like a retrospective, the year one. And I'd like to go over that. So that is what we're going to be doing for one more bonus episode on November 72, after which we'll go to January 73. We're catching up. Alrighty. So, let's go back to this scene here a second where I'm full screen. So I've made the claim. Well, first let me tell you, the received knowledge is, if you had asked me, and I think pretty much if you ask any libertarian, has the LP successfully elected someone to the U.S. House or U.S. Senate? Not people who converted once they were there, and we only have one of those, who is Justin Amash. But when Justin Amash converted, I just kept hearing that this is the first congressperson that we've had. And I think that is pretty much what everyone would say. If you wouldn't, let me know. If you know where I'm going with this, put it in chat. I would love to see if other people are hearing what have come to the same conclusion I have. But And what got me thinking about this was the People's Party claimed that they were going to elect congresspeople in their first election. And at first I thought, yeah, that's not going to happen. But you want to know what? We got an electoral college vote in our very first presidential election. We've elected people to state legislatures very early, which is successful. And, you know, we pay so much attention to the federal races, but I think the state level ones are just as important, if not more important. But in 1972, it is my position that we elected somebody to Congress. We elected somebody to the House of Representatives in 1972. So that milestone has already passed. Now, one thing you have to realize about 1972 is we were only on the ballot in 2 states. So you could only run officially as a libertarian in 2 states. I believe it was Colorado and one more. Was it Virginia? 2 states, though. I'm old, but, or was it 3? 2 or 3. Very few. So anybody who was a libertarian in any other state, because we had supporters throughout the whole country. We even had state parties starting in states where you couldn't officially be a libertarian. They had to run as a Republican or a Democrat, or if there were some other options, as a write-in. So the question is, when we had our first elections in 72, if someone was in a state in which you couldn't run as a libertarian, but they were quite obviously a libertarian, but ran as a Republican because that was their only choice, and ran against another Republican in the primary, showing they weren't just a Republican shill that wanted to just have a Republican, would you consider that a libertarian win if that person won? I would say yes. They only ran as a Republican because that was the only choice. Even now, when there are states where our presidential ticket is on the ballot as an independent, are we going to deny they are libertarian? No. So in 72, there was a person elected to the House of Representatives that was a libertarian who won as a Republican. And I count that as a libertarian win. But I'm not the only one who counts that as a libertarian win. The Libertarian Party counted it as a libertarian win. How did we lose this history? Because the guy ended up, power corrupts, right? He ended up backtracking on some of his libertarian positions once he got elected. Well, that happens. That doesn't mean he wasn't a libertarian when he got elected. We don't have an excommunication function, but let's go through the proof, because that's what I like to do. So who was the person that I am claiming is the first libertarian elected, not as a convert, to the U.S. House? It is this guy, Steve Sims of Idaho. I'm not sure if anyone is aware of him, because he actually had quite a career and morphed into a Reagan conservative. And after his stint in the House, he also was a senator. But how can I show you guys now that he was a libertarian? Because obviously throughout his career, he stayed on the Republican party line. But we're talking about when he was elected as a House person. I'm not claiming he was still a libertarian when he was elected to the Senate. So, let me, 1 second here. I need to find the first one. Is this it? Yeah. So, back earlier this year, this is from LP News. And it was saying, look at the heading, Libertarian Candidates. We were claiming this guy. You might remember this from an earlier episode. I think this is from the May 1972 issue of LP News. Stephen D. Sims, Republican candidate for Congress in Idaho's 1st District. He's a fruit grower. And judging from his campaign literature is our kind of man. He believes everything we do, but here is what's interesting. We understand that Steve has been using our temporary platform as a source of position statements. Hell, some of our recognized candidates today aren't using our platform. Bill Weld and Gary Johnson didn't. Joe did, but he's using our platform. He was calling for the abolishment of public schools. He wanted the federal land to either be sold or put to productive use, in the private sector. He had all the positions we held. That's not a libertarian in a state where he couldn't register as a libertarian, and we were encouraging people to contribute to him. I don't know what is. So what else do I got? After the primary, LP News again. Idaho, Steve Sims, a libertarian. This is the Libertarian Party claiming him. Won a strong victory over his two better-known opponents in Idaho's GOP primary on August 8th, getting nearly as many votes as both of them combined. Steve has been using LP literature and has made his campaign theme take a bite out of government. And, again, the address for contributions is given by the Libertarian Party. So here we go. Here's some of his ads. I did some digging. This is November 5th, 1972. Recommends taking a big bite out of government. So it's interesting here. Here's the recipes from the Sims Family Cookbook. And it's funny here. Steve's plan is to stem spending and peel away unneeded bureaucracies and return to basic principles of free enterprise. Okay, what else do we got? Second part of freedom. It doesn't say an issue, is the issue. Freedom from too much government. 40% of every dollar you earn is paid to the government as taxes. Who pays them? You do. If we tax the corporations, the price of products go up. Who pays the higher prices? You do. Very, very libertarian advertisement here. The only way to reduce taxes is to reduce government. And I love this campaign idea here. This could be recycled for libertarian candidates today. Who has the most to gain by voting for Steve Sims? You do. I like it. Very good. Okay. And this is from the LP News we're doing right now, where we claimed his victory. So let me find that page here. Steve Sims, a libertarian, running for Congress as a Republican in the 1st District of Idaho, pulled off an unexpected miracle and won. Steve, an unabashed libertarian, didn't even expect to make it past the primary. And it goes on. He said, in every issue, the issue is freedom. Steve took many stands directly from the LP national platform, and he used an adaptation of our arrow and tan staffel emblem on much of his literature. We congratulate Steve on his victory. So, we claimed him. So this isn't just me pulling this out of my ass. We claimed him as a libertarian win. But unfortunately, as I said, once he got elected, he started backpedaling. That doesn't take away from the fact that he was a libertarian win. All it means is he didn't remain one. So let's take a look at some of that. No, this is the one I want. Hold on. Okay. This is from Radicals for Capitalism, another book I'm going to be doing with my patrons soon. Because that, to me, but I wanted to get more into the 70s before I did that. So, the story of the Society for Individual Liberty, that is SIL. I don't know what SDS is. Somebody here might know. The story of SIL ultimately lacked the drama and, of course, the impact of SDS. No Communist Party sought to take it over. No gang of bomb makers or armed robbers rose from it. And so on. But here, with the exception of Steve Sims, a former senator who's a narco-libertarianism. So this dude, when he was running, was an anarchist, dissolved after he took office, though he was one of the prominent supporters for re-legalization of gold ownership. You're not going to tell me an anarchist running, using the LP platform, using the Tanstaffel, being claimed by the Libertarian Party was not a libertarian win. So let's stop saying we've never elected someone as a libertarian to Congress, because we have. He fell from grace, but, you know, there but for the grace of Rothbard go I. Okay, next thing here. This is, I believe, from Murray Rothbard. I think it's from the Libertarian Forum. Crap, I should have wrote that down, but it's, you know, from that time period. And if you go down to, like, in the middle of the first sentence, avowedly libertarian freshman Congressman Steve Sims. Sims did not run on the Libertarian Party line because there was not a Libertarian Party line, but he was endorsed by the Libertarian Party of Idaho. It was their candidate. The Idaho Party endorsed him. And it says he was anxious to be considered a libertarian purist. But then it goes on and talks about some of his deviations on his voting record. So, you know, he had his faults. Let's continue. But he also had his benefits. Look at this. Congressman Steve Sims tried to partially deregulate the FDA to allow more new drugs. He was stopped by the big drug companies. And we have this. The former senator from Idaho, this is when he was a Reaganite, was the voice of the anti-environmental movement on Capitol Hill and the champion of failed takings bills. His signal achievement was a bill, you know, you can read that. I did not include something here I wanted to include. Let me see if I can pull it up really quick. That basically explained where he started deviating. And I think this is the screenshot that I wanted to put in here. Yeah, let me make this a little smaller. Okay, this was on Reason magazine. And I don't know what it has to do with Christians, but he's talking about Steve Sims, and it says, a liberal will let you do anything with your body, but not everything you want to do with your money. A conservative will allow you to do anything you want with your money, but not everything you want to do with your body. That's a good summation. A libertarian will allow you to do anything you want with both your body and money. But here's where it says he started to falter. It says most people don't know he was pro-choice at that time. He no longer was pro-choice later on in the Reagan years, and also danced around other libertarian issues such as decriminalizing drug use and prostitution. He learned very quickly that most libertarian positions did not sit well with the Idaho electorate, so he dropped the body liberty side of the motto above and called himself a limited government conservative for the rest of his quite undistinguished political career. So he learned that the social stance didn't play well in Idaho, but he always remained pretty firm to the economic stances. It's too bad he didn't remain firm on that. So that is Mr. Sims. And I do think that we can claim him. Stephen Linerberry, and I'm so glad to see you here. He let us know. Let me put this here. Students for a Democratic Society. Thank you. I haven't learned all of these abbreviations yet, and I kind of count on you guys to show me. There's something else I wanted to show you guys that was an accomplishment of Mr. Sims, and I am going to be picking up this resource. Let me pull this up. I don't know why I didn't have these ready. Okay, this is a book he wrote, and he actually wrote it with a leftist. But The Citizen's Guide to Fighting Government. It's not an ideological book. It's a practical how-to book on how to organize PACs and petition and, initiatives and things like that. It's old, so I'm not so sure how relevant all of it is, but a lot of that information is still good. You just have to update it. So I am going to pick up this book because it sounds like it would be really useful. I have one other thing to show you about Mr. Sims. It's some clips I took of an interview he did. He was originally talking about this book, but I wanted to show you on how in economics, he still was libertarian on those issues, even when he turned into a Reagan conservative, and some things he said that we would absolutely agree with. So let's see if we can go to those clips.
Steve, you came to Washington not as a wild frontiersman, but I remember your commercials in that first campaign for Congress where you said that the protection of American liberty, and I'm paraphrasing, you've got it correctly, are the jury box, the ballot box, and the cartridge box. And that resonated well with me, and it certainly resonated well with your constituents.
Somebody saying, well, we want this nice, shiny new train to come in. And I can still remember when I was opposing Amtrak, and the mayor of of my hometown was pleading with me because he wanted Amtrak.
Opposing federal funding of
Right,
Amtrak.
to stop in the hometown. I said, look, what you're arguing for is this shiny new train to come in. But what you can't see is what would happen if the money were left in the hands of the people, so they could just go buy a bus ticket or
a new car, or
new car, something else. The alternative.
And right there, the lost opportunity cost. That is very much a libertarian argument. So I hope I've convinced you. And I do not know, again, why this has been lost when the Libertarian Party itself acknowledged him as a libertarian win in 1972. So we had already won a Congress seat. Be proud. That is all I have for you guys this evening. Maybe tomorrow we'll do the other bonus episode, but I don't know. I've got a lot of stuff on the plate. I'm probably going to try to be broadcasting every night, until I get caught up, if that ever happens. I'm so behind in work. But tomorrow morning, go to Part of the Problem. I am going, and I think it's going to be live. I'm going to be on with Dave Smith. It is, what time? 11 Eastern, 9 Mountain. So I think it's his live. I don't know. It might be pre-recorded, but I'm pretty sure it's live because his show has been live every time I've been watching YouTube. Like today, it was live, and I go and haunt the comments for a while. So I'm like so psyched about that. That will be a lot of fun. Just like being on Tom Woods was a lot of fun. So thank you so much, everyone. Again, please consider becoming a patron and we can go through Fear and Loathing on the campaign trail. Otherwise, have a good night. Thank you for spending some time with me. Love you all. Bye-bye.
You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business. Not because